All right. So here's the thing. We're not just talking about one case of Donald Trump being shot down in court. Over the past week, there have been so many losses for the Trump administration. It is staggering. Probably the largest among them is the ruling that basically said his tariffs are bullshit, that no, this is not something that you can do within, and it wasn't an Emergency Powers Act. I got like so many of these pulled up right now because there's like 8 of them, but we got the tariffs, we got the deportations under the Alien Enemies Act were ruled unconstitutional. His firing of the FTC commissioner was ruled unconstitutional. He today, like, even I sent this list like earlier this morning. Even since then, he lost another court case today, where a court ruled that his withholding of federal funding from Harvard was unconstitutional. He's just losing over and over and over again. And it's kind of what we said, like when he did all of these things, like, hey, these are clearly fucking unconstitutional. But the courts just have to figure that out, and he can kind of do whatever he wants in the meantime. Well, he fucked around and now he's finding out. And the biggest one being the tariffs. This is the one that he's trying to get the Supreme Court to rule on in an expedited ruling, because until he does that, the tariffs are not enforceable. And what the court ruled is that the Economic Emergency Powers Act does not give the president authority to impose blanket tariffs on a whim how he sees fit, while it does give him the ability to regulate and ban certain imports for emergency reasons. Tariffs are never fucking mentioned as a mechanism, which he has, and certainly the way that he's applied them doesn't constitute, the wording of the law, the IEEPA. So that's the biggest one, but just so many losses. I guess, TJ, the question is, how closely have you been following these cases? And are you surprised to see just uniform across the board loss for Trump on all of these?
Yeah, all of them, I guess. But I mean, it depends on where it goes, like which appeals court actually hears it. And the following it is kind of a strong word. Like, I hear when it happens, because Trump's tariffs are struck down all the time. This is, I feel like, the third or fourth time.
Well, this is a big one. Mm-hmm. This is like challenging the power to implement them in the first place. It's not like, hey, this tariff was unconstitutional. This is like, hey, you just can't set tariffs, is basically what this court ruling is saying. And that's why he's like, yo, Supreme Court, get on this shit. Because it's really bad for him if he's not allowed to do this.
Yeah, and there's what I was going to mention is that it really only matters when it gets to the Supreme Court, right? Like, that's when it actually matters. And I have no idea. The Supreme Court sometimes surprises me and makes actually decent decisions, even like the Republicans. Roberts is, you can count on him making 4 or 5 good decisions every year or something like that, out of 20. But there's 2 courses of action they have here, in that, well, 3, I guess. One, they could just try to enforce it anyway, and like, hey, stop me. We're the executive branch. We'll do what we want. Or they can go to the Supreme Court, which is the route they're most likely to take, and Trump can lean on them and try to get some to regain his power there. Or third, and they could just do it the right way, I go to Congress, like, strike while the iron's hot. Like, why not? And granted, I said maybe some Republicans would be afraid of what would happen if the tariffs came back on them, because they tried to offload this authority in the beginning. I remember earlier this year they're saying, yeah, let's just give this power to the president to cede their own power to the executive branch because they don't want to deal with it. But I mean, a lot of them said they didn't want to sign the big, beautiful bill either. They got their arms twisted in doing that either. So I don't know, as long as Trump is in power and we have a Republican Congress and a conservative Supreme Court, they don't seem like victories at the moment,
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. It all excuse me. It all depends on what the Supreme Court says. And the interesting thing about this is that this is basically the same case that was brought for Joe Biden's student debt relief initiative, where then the court ruled 6-3 that he overstepped his authority by moving to cancel up to $400 billion in student loans, in order that the court said had a staggering scope of impact. And essentially what it's called the major questions doctrine. And they essentially generally rule that if Congress wants to give an executive agency the power to make decisions on their behalf, that agency can't make decisions of vast economic and political significance. And that's what they ruled with the student debt relief for Joe Biden. That's why they ruled against that. And the tariffs, by every measure, are a much larger economic and political significance than the student loan relief. And so that's why it seems unlikely that the Supreme Court would just flip-flop on that issue. Because as you said, a lot of people view the Supreme Court as a partisan body, and that's not really the case. You can make your arguments about like your Alitos and Thomases and Scalias of the world having a clear agenda, but like a lot of them do rule on complicated legal principles and reasoning that does not fall in with typical partisan politics. And so like this is one of those cases where I'm not a lawyer, but it does seem the people who say that the Supreme Court is probably going to rule this way, who are usually right, they're saying that they're going to rule against the tariffs. So there's that. The other really interesting tidbit here is that the government would have to pay back the tariffs that have already been collected under this act, which would amount to, I think it was, where was it? It was like something like $60 billion. I'm trying to find the exact number here. But yes, like all of the companies that had to pay a tariff will be able to ask for their money back. $65.8 billion. There it is. Yeah, and that's crazy.
I didn't know that, and that doesn't seem like that should be the case, honestly. Because I mean, like the law was passed, well, and you're saying it was unconstitutional. Are we in the habit of retroactively repaying stuff? Because like if I just keep this going down the line here, so I bought a suit this week for your wedding. Actually, and I was out at this men's clothing store, and I was talking to the people who worked there when I was checking out the material, and the lady said, "Oh, the suit is X amount of dollars. It's actually $10 more because of the tariffs, but since we didn't change the sticker price, we're not going to charge you the $10 tariff." And I was like, "Oh, okay, Karen, they're not going to get that money." Well, if they had passed it on to me, I'm not getting that money, right? It's odd that they can just like because they definitely passed that cost along to someone else, and they're getting kind of paid twice. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, so I mean that's a good point, but also I guess they win in that case. Like they win big time in that case because you can't really retract. But like I think does make sense like that they should be reimbursed. It does suck for us that we don't get reimbursed, but like that's something that I hope the Democratic Party can fucking hammer home and make the general American population understand. But like apparently, like there's already a process for when. What's the exact wording here? Importers can lodge protests at the Customs and Border Protection Agency to obtain refunds. Like there's already a process for when you are imposed a tariff or some other sort of tax that you found out that shouldn't have been because mistakes are made, and so there's already a process for lodging disputes. And that's kind of what this is going to be, just on probably the largest scale in American history.
Oh, God. All right. So, okay. And this comes to the big point here. I want to get your opinion on this one, John, that you said that this is going to fall under the same umbrella of what rejected Biden's student loans and everything. And we talk a lot about Trump and his actions that are clearly unconstitutional. I know it. You know it. Everyone knows it, as Trump would say. And it doesn't matter quite as much as the optical win for his side and his cohort. And Trump plays on this a lot, even with remember when he sent the National Guard into Washington, D.C., and he said the National Guard is going to go in there. They're going to kick ass and take names. They're going to clean up the streets. Insane for anyone who knows how the National Guard works. You can't really do that. And what they ended up doing was just walking around the safest parts of Washington, D.C. It didn't matter. Right?
They did literally clean the streets. They did pick up trash in his defense.
Okay. Oh, God, I'm so glad you brought that up. Remind me about that. I got to go talk about that too. But yeah, the message that he sent. Now, we would say that's bad that you're sending the military in to handle criminal actions. That's kind of fucked up. They didn't end up doing that, but Trump's fans like that. And if the Supreme Court comes out or the fact that they didn't actually do what he said and what they promised doesn't matter. You get the optics of Trump standing up there saying, I'm going to do this. Same with the tariff thing. For some, he's amazing. I mean, look, incredible that he's convinced people into thinking that blanket indiscriminate tariffs on multiple countries is just a good idea. It's insane, but they like it. And if he loses it in court, he's still going to be out every day saying the tariffs are great. They're a good thing. He still wins in their eyes. Like it's not really a loss for him. That's not what he wanted, but he still looks good to his supporters. And contrast that with, once again, I'm not trying to be this guy, folks. So the guy who's always shitting on Democrats, but you can learn so much from Trump and everything. Did we see Biden do this with student loans? Did we see Biden out there every day saying this is an important issue? I don't care what the Supreme Court says. They're talking about overturning this. They're hurting you, and saying it every day until everyone knows this. I don't know how, like with marijuana, with Biden saying that he wanted to change marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, and the Supreme Court rules against it. Fuck them. Just do it anyway. Like make the Republicans be in a public battle with the President of the United States, saying that marijuana is just as dangerous as heroin. It's important to classify it that way. Just obvious optics that we're not taking part in. And I wish we could learn from Trump when he's doing this.
Yeah, no, a couple notes on those optics, because again, we're not saying what Donald Trump is doing is good.
Yeah.
But the way that he's going about doing it should be replicated. Like you said, even with the marijuana thing, what is even the point of moving it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug? Who the fuck understands what that even means? Even if I agreed with that policy, which I don't, it should just be legal. But like, even if I did, I'd be like, politically, that's dumb, because no one knows what the fuck you're talking about. Donald Trump, he doesn't come up with some complicated fucking economic policy. He's just like, tariffs. We're gonna charge other countries. We're gonna make them pay a flat rate across the board. And fuck it, China, we don't like them. 150%. That sounds good. That sounds like it'll work. You guys like that? You like that? Yeah, we're gonna go with that. That's how he makes his decisions. And I'm not saying necessarily you should always make decisions for that purpose. But in the case of something like marijuana legalization, when legalization would be the right answer fucking anyway, go broke. You know, go balls to the wall. Do it as aggressively and as visibly as possible in the simplest way for the dumbest person to understand. And that's how you win. And that's why Donald Trump has done so many of these things that are ending up losing him in court. Some of them he genuinely cares about. The tariff thing he does clearly care about, I guess. It has never made any sense to me. But like, he wanted the wins. That's all he fucking actually cares about. If he loses in court months later and people don't even understand what's going on, he comes out on top there. And as much as it is fun for me, it makes me happy that he gets his ass kicked in court over and over again. The average American doesn't even fucking know that. They just know, oh shit, he did this, made me happy. Let's go. Trump good. You know, yep. And that is the problem here. And there's no one really combating that from the get-go. You know, the Democratic Party just seems to be like, hey, we'll see him in court. And it's like, no one gives a shit. No, it's not 2009 anymore. No one gives a shit about what actually happens. All that matters is what we think happens. And fuck, who knows what who knows what he does? Who knows what he does? He's going to try doing something else unconstitutional and just keep kicking the can down the road until he gets what he wants. You know, and that's honestly what Joe Biden should have done. Just keep going at it. Say, this matters to me. This matters to you. I'm going to fight like hell. I'm going to do everything within my power to get it done. That's what people like about Donald Trump. He's doing that for bad things. That's why I don't like him. But if he was doing it for good things, I'd be all on board.
Yeah, I wish I've had a lot of thoughts. You know how we say we need a left-wing Joe Rogan and stuff? We actually need a left-wing Trump, which is hard to get, actually. It's hard to get someone who recognizes the base, servile, and, unintelligent average voter, like on the left or right, like we talked about, and knows how to appeal to their absolute most libidinal urges. Just give them an enemy, give them a very simple goal. And once again, this isn't, I guess it's rude to say that, it's because they're stupid. It's not, because people are busy. Now, most people aren't like us, where they consume this stuff and they live, eat, sleep, and breathe politics. They got lives to worry about. They got families to feed, they got children to take care of, they got mortgages to pay. So, when you get on there and make some sort of speech of, we are introducing a tax credit to college educated workers in impoverished areas who've been there for 5 years, you lose them. It's gone. It's done already. But Trump says no tax on tips. Whether it's true or not doesn't really matter, as long as you keep repeating it over and over again. And I was trying to think, I don't know if I mentioned on the show before, who a left-wing version of Trump could be. The closest person I can come up with, I wouldn't really call him a leftist, but he's close enough for my liking, would be Jesse Ventura. I think Jesse Ventura is insane and crazy and earnest enough. Because when Jesse Ventura talks and he says, yeah, I don't think billionaires should exist, I'm with him. All right, I think he's on the right track here. Now, when he starts saying, and UFOs have definitely landed in Area 51. Okay, Jesse's crazy. I would admit, okay, that guy's kind of crazy, but I support enough policies they have. And now he's kind of old, but maybe 10, 15 years ago when he was still big and had the muscles and stuff and the big voice, I think someone like that would be our version of Trump if we could have one.
Yeah, no, completely agree with that. And it's not, people are always like, oh, it's the bombastic nature. It's not necessarily what you need. You just need someone who will fight like hell.
Yes.
And the other magical thing about Trump that like Democrats misread entirely is that we see him be hypocritical. And we go, bro, you're being hypocritical. That's embarrassing. And you know what his supporters see? They see he's willing to be hypocritical for us. Genuinely. Like, a lot of them understand the hypocrisy. But the entire ideology is, what's good for my in-group is good, what's bad for my in-group is bad. That's not hypocritical to them. They see him being willing to flip-flop on issues for their benefit as a good thing. And pointing out that it's hypocritical only feeds the beast. Something that Democrats really need to learn from, like 8 years ago. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. I'm John Cooper. This is TJ Whitehead. You either just watched a very well-produced, concise, singular video about a very specific topic, or you watched us go off on a tangent about movies again. Either one should have been entertaining to you, but make sure to like and subscribe so you can see them all. And TJ, say something else, because usually we throw to our guests at this point.
That's all right. Folks, we appreciate you watching the show. I want you all to know that today's episode was sponsored by Boys and Girls Bicycles. If you look on the right, you will see a boys bicycle, a very masculine bar across the center. And on the left, you will see a girls bicycle, a very feminine slope across the center. There's no reason for this anymore. It's something that we did 150 years ago and have stuck with today, even though it serves no practical purpose. But gender exists. It's a real thing in human expression and mechanical expression. We will catch you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of your evening.